everybody. A 1, 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. Life can be scary and sometimes hard, like you got a winning hand until you dealt the wrong card. It ain't fair, but you're not alone. You're down and out and you're high and dry in the darkest valley or the coldest night. You find and you're not alone. With a soul bubbling in your heart, where a story can give you a brand new start. You don't have to travel this big bad world all on your own, 'cause it's better when we do it together. All mixed up and upside down, feels like there's no one else around. That ain't right, no, 'cause you're not alone. When it all goes south and life gets tough and you've been knocked down and the weeds are rough, just sing it now, you just fight. You're not alone. With a soul bubbling in your soul, make you feel low. You don't have to travel this big bad world all on your own, 'cause it's better when we do it together. Yeah! It's better when we do it together. Hello, everybody. How are you this fine Sunday afternoon, this fine Sunday evening? Hello, 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 and welcome to the Polaha Chautauqua. This is your host, Kristoffer Polaha. I'm coming to you live from beautiful, sunny Los Angeles, California. And I have a very special guest today. We're going to do, I'm going to introduce you to, you can't read it because it's backwards because it's Instagram Live, but Anna Gomez. We wrote a book together. And speaking of, it's better when you do it together. I can't speak from experience because I've never written a book alone. Anna has. Maybe she can answer that. But we wrote a book together. And Anna's got some incredible news that I'm going to let her share with you about that book already. And I want you to meet her. So I want her to come onto the show. We're going to go live with Anna. She's going to share a little bit about her life story, about where she's from, about what she does other than write books, about how our collaboration began. We will have a conversation. It'll be very chill. We're going to play a little game that I'm stealing from Dan from Deck the Hallmark, from the boys on Deck the Hallmark, because I thought it was so fun. We'll do a page and a line, and we'll just kind of read the book for each other and for you guys, to give you guys all a little snippet of what's to come. And then we will go and answer some questions. And so we'll go through. So at the end, if you have questions that you want to ask, please feel free to do that. You know, I always like cutting to the chase. So Anna, with no further ado, coming to you live. I'm coming to you live. Hi.
Hi.
Look at how pretty your background looks. It's like the sun is setting.
I know.
It looks like paradise where you are.
I was actually happy it was darker because you know how like the gets too bright sometimes when we're on Zoom.
Yeah, no, you look really good. And the background looks really pretty where you are. That's really
thanks.
Cool. I've like got my kid is doing something for class. And so we've got like this whole room set up for Romeo and Juliet. It's very very creative in the Polaha household.
That's so cute.
Yeah, he's doing the last monologue from Romeo and Juliet. It's like tough.
Oh my gosh.
Not easy. How are you today?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. We've been getting some exciting news, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
Should we just spill the beans right on the front end of the show? We've made some lists already, haven't we?
Yep, and we haven't even released the book yet.
So we haven't even released the book. And what lists are we on? Can you tell the folks what we're...
You know what? The last time I looked, we were #1 in Hawaii books. #1 new release in Hawaii books. We're number 15 in Asian Lit for books. And then something like number 25 for best new releases.
It's amazing.
It's all because of everyone on this Same.
It's the
Yeah.
Chautauqua it's the
Yeah.
Chautauqua
Yeah.
crew,
Yeah.
isn't it? It's
Your
people just
peeps.
being amazing and like supportive and buying hard copy books, also buying the ebooks,
Yeah.
and just cracking lists, guys. We're actually making you guys are tangibly making a difference in our sales, and so that's
Yeah.
awesome.
I
So
have you been in the butterflies? I don't know if you know that we merged everyone together.
I know I heard there was a great unification of appreciators and fans, and so are there a lot of butterflies out there today? Let's see. Do we have
There
butterflies
are. Yeah,
going
I've seen
on?
a few.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
numbers are good tonight, so I bet they're a bunch because I can see that being your people. You have an amazing. Okay, so for those of you, so for those of the people who don't, let's tell them a story. Let's go back and let's talk about where you're from. Let's talk about your childhood, what you do, when you got married, your Chicago. Let's just go through your life, and then we'll
Really?
talk about a little bit. I just because I think it's fascinating. I think that it's. I don't mean to like all of a sudden pull in Women's History Month, but it's Women History Month, and I think that you have done some really incredible stuff. You know, as a human being, but as a woman in particular, that you've broken a lot of ceilings. You set a lot of at work. You do a lot of really amazing things that I'm constantly humbled by. And you'll drop it on a Zoom call. You're like, oh, by the way, I'm speaking at this thing, and I'm like, you're what? You're doing what? Or you'll get an award for. It's impressive. Your life is very impressive. So I didn't even know that. I had no idea who you were when we signed up to work with each other, and it's just been this beautiful sort of as you peel an onion, like layer after layer of like surprises, and all of them good. So, so where were you born?
So I was born in Manila
Okay.
many, many moons ago. So, I met and married my husband, who actually one lived in Indiana. So he grew up in Indiana, and he went home for the summer. He's Filipino as well. And we met, we worked together. It was my first job out of college. And so we dated while we worked together. And, I had this rule. He had to quit that job because I didn't want to date somebody in the same place, blah, blah, blah. So he left that job. And we met 6 months before we got married. So I don't know if you knew this, but
Wow. Did you
I was
really?
dating someone for 8 years. 8 years. And then I met Bill and married him in 6 months.
Is that kind of like? Isn't there a book? Didn't you have a book? Isn't there similar like where you?
Yeah, no, I wrote about that in my first book, In the Light in the Wound, because so many things happened in my life, and that was one of the things, the drama of going out with someone for 8 years, marrying someone else, and then him showing up at the wedding and all that. I wrote about all that. So
Yeah.
so anyway, so we moved here about 25 years ago, raised the kids. The kids were 2 and 1, and moved here as young parents. I moved here in the 90s when there weren't very many people like me here yet, so it was really hard to get a job. I had an economics degree from one of the top universities in Manila, and that didn't do anything here. They said, we can't give you a job. You didn't go to college here, and you can't go to college, or you can't get a job. So it was this vicious circle of not being able to find
Right.
anything.
Right.
So I had a plan. I took the train every day with these 5 young ladies who taught me like everything about the States and what I needed to do and whatnot. So the first job I got was making copies. So I was a copy girl for a law firm downtown Chicago. When they offered me the job, they said I would just stand there for 8 hours and make copies. And I needed a job because we had 2 young kids, and it was just really tough at that time. So so I took the job and was offered a full-time position in that law firm about a year after I started as a copy girl, and then just put my plan in place. So every 3 years, I would jump from industry to industry. As an accountant, someone in finance, you have to have experience in different industries. So
Sure.
manufacturing, logistics, telecommunications, I did it all. And then 16 years ago, I found the perfect job at this ad agency, and I've been there since. So I started out as a staff, and I ended up getting promoted to be the CFO of that agency.
The CFO.
It's just been a really good experience for me. And kids are grown. I mean, you're so bent on bringing up a family and taking care of your kids and actually having them kind of assimilate to a different country and a different culture.
Yeah.
So in the middle of this whole rat race, I just forgot about my family back home. Not forgot, but there was no time to ever go home. And so my mom passed away 10 years ago. And right when I decided to go home to see my family, she passed away 3 days before I got there. So I hadn't seen
Oh,
her for like
man.
10 years. Um,
You know, I don't know that I knew the specifics of that. I knew that she had passed away, but I didn't know that it was that close or
yeah, I hadn't
almost.
talked
Oh,
to her for 10 years. We were estranged many different reasons. And so that's why I wrote the book, because I basically had to write about it. So that was the first book.
yeah.
And then after the first book, the second book, people wanted a second book because
When
there
did you
wasn't any.
start writing, Anna? When was the first time you wrote?
You know what? I always wrote. I mean, just like you, I wrote poetry. I wrote short stories, but the first time I self-published a book was 2013.
2013. Okay,
Yeah,
so we're coming on, what is it,
eight.
9 years ago?
Yeah,
9 years ago, 8 years ago?
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and then I wrote in quick succession. So people loved the book. They didn't think the character had closure. So I wrote the second book in 6 months, and then I just kept, I just kept going, and then got picked up by a publisher, the third book. So
So the first book, okay, so you decided to write a book, and it's about a lot of stuff that's in your life.
yeah,
And what's the name of it again? Tell everybody the name
the
of it.
light in the wound.
The
It's
Light
the
in the
light in the wound. Yeah.
Okay. And so you decided that you wanted to write a book about the real life pain that you'd experienced and real life love that you've experienced.
Yeah, it's a child. It's about a child's relationship with her mother,
Okay.
and how that relationship with her mother made her make decisions in life that guided her decisions in life because she didn't want to repeat whatever happened.
Right. Right. She won't make the same mistakes or have that
Yeah.
the cycle replay itself. And so you write this book. And what did your husband say? Was he just like, go for it, babe? And you just went off into a room and started typing away? Like, I mean, I think for a lot of people who are listening right now, the idea of writing something, the idea of sitting down by yourself and just deciding to do something like that without any kind of promise of it amounting to anything. What were your expectations? Did you know that you were going to self-publish, or did you just think you'd write it and then stick it in a box somewhere?
I no, I thought I'd write it and stick in a box somewhere, and then I met some authors who were totally encouraging, and I set up a blog. I wanted to see what people's reactions to my words were at first.
Okay.
So I wrote a blog. I set up a blog and I started writing about books and reviewing books and about life and stuff like that. And then I got 30,000 followers, and I thought, you know what?
You're like, that's not bad.
Maybe I should write. So I
It's
did.
a university of people looking at what I'm reading and writing, Yeah.
So yeah, so I mean, everything just happened progressively. And I travel a lot for my job. So, we're gonna go into this how we wrote moments together, but like I was always out away, hotels, lounges,
Right.
airplanes, everything. So I always had time to write. My husband has been so very supportive in me in everything, not just in the writing, but in the career that I chose. He was always the steady one. He had a steady job. He was in software, so engineering. So he was more in the tech industry. So he had an 8 to 5 job, which I loved because he was always there for the kids. He took them to their games. He took them everywhere. And then I was able to kind of keep going in my career.
Yeah. That's a lot like Julianne and I. I have someone at home who's always home and always with the kids and keeping the home fires burning in that steady way. And then I get to and be like,
and it's like your beacon, right? Like you always end up going home. You always end up there.
Yeah. It makes a big difference to have that steadiness, I think, for artists, because you get to be, like I never know when my next job's going to be, like, so literally financially, like things are just like always. And when I have her and what she does in the family, it creates that steadiness that is really.
Yeah. And not just that, I think the two of us, I think we have a lot of similarities in that, what we do, I mean, you're constantly meeting different people, constantly.
Right.
Social events, meetings, anything, traveling, and they have to be pretty secure and pretty okay with that.
Yeah. Confident and trusting to know that you go out into the world and that you're going to come back in the world. You and I work well together. We'll get to us in a minute. And I want to keep talking about your next book. And I also want to ask you, because you did something really smart. So for anyone who's out there who wants to become a published author or a poet or a songwriter or really anything, one of the things that you did, which I just heard in an interview recently, and I wasn't aware that it was such like a measure that you took. And you kind of just mentioned it in your last answer, you took the time to embed yourself in the writing community. So you reached out to other writers, you started a blog. So tell us about that. Like,
Yeah.
what was that process like?
You know what? It was, you have to really put yourself out there. It's a really actually a funny story. I saw something in the newspaper one day in Chicago about a writing event that took place at the Palmer House Hilton downtown. And I bought a ticket, and I said to Bill, I'm going to stay in this hotel for 3 days at this writing convention. And he was like, what? Um, so I went all by myself. I rented a room. I stayed there for 3 days, and there were three, different events. I went and attended, made friends with people, just people in line, authors. That's where I met, like for the first time, I met a lot of author friends. And there was this social event at night, and I said, hey, I'm from Chicago, I'll organize it, I'll take you guys to a club. And so I invited these authors to this club, where we had like special access and blah blah blah. And that's where I met them. I met them when we were drunk. And
That's so
and
funny.
like,
Because you're a baller, because you're the CFO of a global club. You're like, I could do some fun stuff.
yeah,
You're like, come on, I can. All the
I
other
can
writers,
get you in.
all the other writers are like, I can't afford it. You're like, I got it. Tonight's on me.
So yeah, and then you establish all these great relationships, and they actually advise you. I mean, you have to find an editor, as you know, you have to find a copywriter, you have to find a cover person. I mean, all those people I met through these authors, that really, really encouraged me.
And then what was that like? So you decide to self-publish. What is that process like? Like, did you just go online, or did these authors say, this is the best group to go to? And what does that look like? I mean, there's obviously a cost to that. So you've got to get the books printed, and then you hope to sell them. How did you sell them?
Yeah, there's a cost. And I think the biggest cost is editing. You have to get a really good editor. And this one author, um, Willow Astor, actually her name, we're very close. She edits as well. And so she edited my first book for me. And it was rough. I mean, she was like, like, there's so many things that go into editing that I didn't know about. So you have to invest in the editing, and you have to invest in the book cover. So another author recommended another cover artist for me. And at that time, it was my first book. I mean, I gave them everything to read. I mean, they held my hand throughout the whole process. I think writing is a very lonely process. You're in your head all the time, and that we're in our heads all the time, and living in this alternate universe. And when people are there to support you and actually like help you out and advise you, it's different. And so I self-published my book. So you just put it in a Word document, and then you upload it in Amazon. And people were teaching me how. You basically just attach a file, and then you attach a book cover file. You set up an account. I mean, it took about an hour for me to figure it out, and then just press publish.
So once the editor, so you had the editor, they got the book the way you wanted it. You had a cover that you were pleased with. And then once you put it on Amazon, and then you had this blog that had 30,000 people attached to it. So then you had a readership that you kind of smartly built in.
Yeah, so then I would just post about the book, and and then I learned how to make a newsletter by myself, and I went to MailChimp is a thing, a newsletter thing, and I made my own newsletters, and that's it. I mean, I just did it all by myself.
Amazing. It really is amazing. So then book 2 comes along, and how long after that how long did it take you to go for book 2?
Book 2, 6 months, because there was a readership, a lady named Yvonne, I remember, in the UK, who set up a Facebook account for me. And she said, there's no closure. It looks like Isabel's still in love with the other guy. And I'm like, yeah, let's need to close it. So I wrote the second book really quickly. And then I started just regularly writing. And then I went through a really tough, dark time in my life. after the second book, and I wrote about it in the third book, and then in the fourth book, fifth book.
You're like, and then I just and six books, right? Under
Yeah,
Christine Bray.
six books.
Six
Yeah,
six books under Christine Bray. And then you
yeah.
got the Bray's Butterflies, and that's something that started a community that's begun as a result of your authorship
Yes,
with
yes,
Polaha.
and we were butterflies because we all evolved into something. When those guys first joined me, they were so shy and so young, and so it's been a long time, and everyone's just come out of their shell, and everyone has just like evolved into these amazing women.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's really cool. And then cut to last year.
yeah,
You've
got to
got
last year.
you've decided to write under your own name, Anna Gomez.
Yeah. You know, before last year, I was already slowing down. I was just too busy. And there were just, it was really, really hard to separate my two lives, because then I had just come out at work as an author, and I was trying to just make sure that
And how was
people
that
do.
reception when you're a CFO? I mean, that's a pretty, for people, like, I'm sure everybody knows, there's like the CEO and there's the CFO. You're making all of the financial decisions for a billion-dollar global business. It's a massive job. It's huge, huge responsibility. And then you tell everybody, oh, by the way, I'm a romance author,
I didn't.
women's lib.
So I didn't.
How did it work out?
So my friends knew it. So every time I'd be writing a book, I'd come in with like looking really tired and sleepless and whatnot. My friends knew what I was doing, but nobody, like, it wasn't a common thing. And then I came out in USA Today, um, and somehow the CEO got hold of it and blasted it out.
Okay. So they were like, hey, we're proud of you.
Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah,
Okay, so you were saying you were at work, all of a sudden it became discovered that you were also a writer, and you were slowing down and you decided, so what was the decision to then to put Christine Bray away and then introduce the world to Anna Gomez?
yeah. So to put Christine Bray away was a decision I made because I just didn't have time. I'm still very jealous of authors who do it full time, who can market their things and blast things every day and post on social media. I was never like that. First of all, I was just never comfortable, and so I felt like I already did what I wanted to do. I've done the journey. um, I started, now as a CFO, started trying to build my brand and my platform, which is things I truly believed in, which is diversity, inclusion, women's empowerment, all the social activism. And Javier, our friend, really got me into that because he believes in. We'll talk about Javier later, but there's just so many causes that you can use your name to,
Right.
and all the books from Christine Bray were all about different cultures. I mean, they were about life in the Philippines, life in France, life everywhere else, and I felt like it was really important to attach my real name to that at this point.
Yeah.
But I had told my agent Italia, like, I'm done. Can I just take a break? I want to focus on my career. The kids are, Marco, my youngest, is going to college. I've lost a few years with him. Because I've been working so much, and he reminds me all the time how much time I did not spend with him. And so I said, it's COVID. COVID we were just kind of winding down, and
Right.
no, actually COVID wasn't there. It was like the end of the year before, 2019, and we were already kind of winding down. The world was kind of going a little bit crazy already, and I said, I'm kind of done. And she said, well, how about we try one more time, but this time write for a different audience, and write because you love writing scripts, because I had written the script or co-written the script for my other two books.
Right. Right.
She said, and then why don't we try that avenue, and why don't you write for Hallmark? And that's when, the same story where I'm like, what?
That's when, yeah, Javier enters the picture. Hey, should we take a minute to wish Italia a happy birthday?
Yes.
It's her birthday today.
Yes. Italia Gandolfo, best person in the world. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Italia.
Yeah.
She's pretty amazing. She's been integral in this whole process and a part of how easy it's been to make this thing happen. Okay, so we're getting closer to the two stories converging.
Yeah.
So Javier LaFianza is my neighbor in California, and it happens to be the very first person I met when I went to see. We were looking at the house, whether or not we wanted to move into it or not. And I was driving down the road and I see this man and his son walking, and I roll my window down and he and I have this conversation, and his son's going off to Stanford Law School, and I'm like, that seems like a pretty legit like family. That's cool.
Yes.
And then we end up, getting the house, and we end up being neighbors with these very smart, intelligent, thoughtful people who are active and activated in the world. And one day, then quarantine hits. So now it's like March 17th, 2019. The pandemic is in full force. And I don't know the exact date that you and I got on the phone. Do you happen to know that date?
Yeah. Well,
Or
you know
Zoom?
what? It wasn't March. It was
It was
May.
it was May, right? So because
It
we
was
had
May.
been in, okay, so we'd been in the grind of the pandemic for a while.
Yeah.
Kids were not in school yet. So you were probably at home with your family. I was at home with my family, and everything was shut down. And one of the things that we did every day to get outside, I have this big long like this green space next to my house. It's juxtaposed to our property, and I would take the kids out and we'd play football. And I would always see Javier and his wife Ann walking their dog. We'd always exchange pleasantries. And then one day, and I feel like he's kind of Yenta in this story, like he's a matchmaker, because I think that your objective was you just wanted to gather information about turning your books into films.
Yeah.
You were just like, if you know anybody, put me in touch with somebody because I just have questions I would love to know. And he sold me on like, I've got a friend who has books who wants to turn them into movies. And he knew I just had opened up this little production shingle called Podunk Productions. And he just thought we would be a good match. He didn't know, he just was following his gut instinct. And I looked you up, and I looked up all of your novels, and I did a deep dive on Rosewind, and I did a deep dive on you and the books that you've written, and synopsises and synopsi or synopsises. I don't know. Anyway, I was like, holy cow, she's got really good books. And I think and no offense to Hallmark, because Hallmark does what it does really, really well.
Yeah.
And it's done great for me, and I love it. But your stories were about loss, and your stories were about grief and a love, and sometimes a love that was started at one place and then shifted to another, whatever it was. And so and we got on Zoom, and that was our first call. And I was like, I think there was a lot of us just kind of, honestly, I think we had the time because it was the pandemic.
Yeah.
And we had somebody in common that we both really liked and trusted. And
Yeah.
he was like the Yenta, the matchmaker, saying, you guys should just get on a Zoom call and see where it goes. And here's what's crazy about this story. It was within the first Zoom call. And I was like, listen, if you want to go to Hallmark and sell stuff, or anywhere for that matter, like Netflix or Apple, the best way to do it, and what you have is IP. You have intellectual property. When you write a book, you create the characters, you create the story, you own it. I said, that's the best way to do it. And I said, so if you ever want to collaborate, and I just kind of threw it out there. Like, I wasn't anticipating you to say, you know what, I'm actually working on a series of books and they take place in Hawaii. Would you like to collaborate with me on those? And it took me, I mean, I was floored, and I was like, are you serious? And what did I say to you? I said, what did I say?
You said, think about it first.
I was like, are you sure? I was like, you should talk to your husband, talk to your agent. Let's sleep on it over the weekend. Let's think about it. But I said yes immediately. I mean, I was
Yeah,
like,
you did.
yeah, I was
You
like,
did.
I would love to.
You know what I want to point out there at that time? Well, first, we were wearing the same shirt.
Right.
And second is you were so open with me. You were like, here's what happens. If you want to do this, this is what happens. You do this, you do this. Like, you were just very transparent and open with me. So I already felt that trust, like that kinship, when we were like the first phone call conversation.
Yeah.
But I honestly, when I said yes and you said, well, think about it, and then you said yes, I mean, I walked over to Bill and I'm like,
I got a writing partner. And you said earlier in tonight, you were like, you and I get along really well, and we have very similar. It's uncanny. like you said, we wore the same shirt. Like there's a picture of us, which one of us should post, and of us in like our like French sailor, you know, navy blue, white striped shirts,
Yes.
horizontal. And then I would come up to you with an idea and I'd be like, well, what if they do this? And you're like, yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Or you would like give me chapters and where I wanted the story to go and I hadn't expressed it to you yet, you had made it that you went that way. So you and I were very much on the same creative wavelength where we were just
Yes.
intuiting each other's instincts and really like it's a good match.
Yeah, I feel like that's it. I don't think, I think we take that for granted because I don't think that happens all the time.
No, in fact, I was thinking the other day. I'm on the phone with people all the time, and for some reason, I thought about our working relationship, and I was like, it really is a seamless, easy thing. I don't even like talking about it that much because it really is like that. It just is what it is, and it's wonderful. And I was talking to some other people, and I was like, yeah, like I don't know that I could do that with this person, or I couldn't do that with this person because there was something about, I mean, it's such a precious thing. And you showed up, and I think it's honest, it's only right to say this. You showed up with moments like this, and you'd already had Andy created, and you already had Warren created, and you had a plantation created, and you had this storyline. So you were inviting me into something, into a world, and sure, it was embryonic, but not really. I mean, you had written chapters already, like you had done work.
I know, but I didn't know that you would like them. Remember, right?
Yeah,
The
no,
way
we'll tell that story
you,
because that's cute. Because it's
yeah.
so you had, yeah.
So no one has ever read my books ever at that stage. So I would write. I don't even. I mean, the butterflies are here on this in this IG live, and they know I don't have beta readers. I just don't share my writing with anyone. The first person that sees my writing is my editor. I never. And so you were leaving. Chris was leaving for the UK. And so 2 days before that, he said, hey, I'm going to be on a really long flight. I think I'm ready. And that would be the great time for you to send me what you wrote. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. I I didn't do anything about it. And then you said the day before, okay, I'm leaving the next day. Um, don't forget to send me something so I can read it on the plane. I'm like, yeah, I will. I wasn't intending to send it. You text me from the airport. You're like, okay, I'm boarding soon. Is there a way that you can send it to me? Because I was just like so nervous. Like, like how, I
Yeah,
don't
no,
know.
it's
Like,
vulnerable. Yeah, it's a vulnerable thing to give
yeah.
people
And like, what if you didn't like it or what, So I finally said, okay, I will. But I'm like, I sent it to him. I sent it to you while you were waiting to board. And I'm like, he's not going to download it. So you went on that flight and I wasn't sure if you were able to download it.
Yeah.
And then you got to your hotel and a couple hours after you got settled in, you texted and you said, oh my God, I read it throughout the whole flight. I loved it. And then you said the one thing that just meant the world to me. You said, I would be so proud to put my name to this book.
Mm-hmm.
You said that. And so I was like, oh, okay. We're in business.
We're in business. You're like, it's done.
Yeah.
We were in business on our second Zoom call, and literally our third Zoom call was the dealing with the contracts. I mean, we had paperwork signed. It's all official, and we did. It really truly is one of those amazing things. And the fact that less than a year later,
Yeah.
there's a book to hold. I mean, and I think that when people read it, like, yes, it's transportive, and yes, it's a frolic, and it's a little, I mean, it's intended to be escapism, and so we've written something that is a pleasure to read.
Yes.
But we've also added some really beautiful nuggets that I think are like are wisdom and are going to feed people's souls. And I mean, I think there's stuff in the book that when people read it, it's going to have a great, like a true impact. Like any kind of literature. I mean, I'm really proud of the book. I'm really proud of it.
And I'm really proud of the characters. I think I think we've done a viable series because of the characters.
Yeah. Well, so we have some time, and before we start getting into answering questions in the last, like, we'll do like 15 minutes maybe of answering questions with people, and then you and I are going to play a game where we're going to read the book to each other. Let's talk about the series real quick. It was when you hear series, people automatically think that. So we're introducing a woman named Andy and a man named Warren. in this book in moments like this. And most people think that a series means that we're going to now watch Andy and Warren for the next 5 books. Is that the case with our series?
Nope.
It's not.
Nope.
And
So every book has an ending.
It has an ending. So they're standalone. So in a way, we're creating more of a family saga.
Yes.
And it all lives within the From Kona with Love title.
Yes.
And I always love paralleling it to like the Marvel universe, or like a lot of people, Hallmark has a little Hallmark universe where,
yes,
but it's different in the sense that you just follow actors that you love. This is going to be more like the Marvel universe where you're going to meet Warren, and then we'll see Warren again, but we're going to start following other people. Now, do we meet other people in this book that we're going to follow in the next book? What do we say? How much do we give away? Like, you're the expert at this.
We just say that we meet people in the same book.
Okay. So we meet.
So we've actually set up everything already for.
Because if I'm a reader, I'd be reading this being like, I wonder who they're going to pick next.
Yes.
Like if I were reading this, I'd be like, well, who are they going to follow? Are they going to follow this person or that person? Or what are we going to?
Yes.
And we know. We know who we're following.
We already know. Yeah.
And we are 108 pages into the second book.
52,000 words in author language.
52,000 words in.
Yeah.
And that one's been a lot of fun because it's been very much what we like to call chapter tennis, where you've written something, you send it back to me, I hit it back to you, we give each other prompts.
Yeah.
And it's
you
been
know what I wanted to bring up though,
yeah.
Here is just the human side of writing together. It's not, I think people don't know this, and I think, your followers and my followers need to know that it's our lives are so busy. There's so much happening around us that it's not a straight collaboration where we have things to write about every week or things to talk about. There have been times when I would text you and try to get out of a meeting, and then you would find out that something was wrong with me, or I was going through something at work, or I wouldn't hear from you, and I would check on you, and you'd be like, there's just so much going on and blah, blah, blah. I mean, you have to put the human side in it, because what we've done is we manage through our daily lives. It's not, the world doesn't stop when we're writing together.
Right.
So, there's, and I think that's important to know, because again, when people say like, oh my gosh, like you guys make it sound so easy, there are so many things that you're managing around you. But we've made a commitment to prioritize when we can.
That's really what it is. It was two strangers. We made a commitment to this project. I see things in color. Like I have the way that I compartment, like I hear music and I see colors to the music. And this project has been this really bright yellow, almost white, just this beautiful bright light that's streamed underneath everything else. So that while I'm putting the kids in at bed, or while I'm on set working, in these movies, like I filmed, 2 movies since we started working, and there was the pandemic and there was all of that stuff. And underneath, there's just been this sort of beautiful through line of this color that is associated with this project. And it's funny, like you think about the characters, and you think about, and I'll be in the shower and all of a sudden this scene will just explode in my mind.
Yes.
And then I go and you gave me some amazing advice. So first off, and I know this is embarrassing to you, and I know you always say, well, don't. You have been the most incredible writing partner that I could have ever asked for, because you've been so encouraging and so generous to me. And you gave me this amazing advice, and you said, just go write, whatever it is, whenever it is, even if it doesn't make sense, just get it out on the paper and we'll figure out where it fits in the story. If it fits in the story, just write. And that was a blessing that you spoke into my life, because, frankly, I'm not a writer. I mean, I get to say that I am now. I'm officially a writer, but I wasn't a writer when you met me. Like, I've always been somebody who's like, I have a great idea, I should go find a screenwriter for it. Or, or I would write privately and just in my journals, or, I have a little file in my computer, short stories or whatever. But you did something, you unleashed this thing in me that, like, I wrote a short story recently for the Orson Holt series that I'm selling to Hallmark. I mean, there's like real stuff that you've you've kind of kicked this thing in. And when I started writing these chapters, though you were scared to give me what you had written, I was terrified because the shoe was on the other foot. And I was like, what if I give her chapters and she's like, this guy sucks. And now I've hitched my wagon to this nut job who can't write, and I'm gonna have to carry the whole load. And I think we were both pleasantly surprised. At least that's, yeah, I can say that because we've had several conversations. And
but again, as I said in that other interview that we had, you're not giving yourself enough credit. You're a wonderful writer. And the thing that amazes me is that the comments that we've been seeing on the reviews, that they don't even know where one voice starts and one voice ends.
Yeah, I know. That's what's cool, right?
So we have the same voice. And I think I think a lot of that I was trying to think of that, like, how do two strangers really have the same voice? I think it's because of our experiences and the friendship that we have. And I don't underestimate that.
Yeah.
You know, you reminded me the other day that I called you crying.
Yeah. I was getting my hair and makeup done in the hair and makeup trailer, which is also very vulnerable for a man to be like, hey, here I am getting pretty for work, and you're crying. And I'm like, what's wrong? Yeah.
Yeah. And she was doing your hair.
Yeah, I know. And I'm like,
and she was pretending not to be listening to me crying.
Jen's good. Jen's fine. She's happy. She's a vault. Yeah. Okay. All right. You ready? Do you have your book?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, let's see if we can do this. Hold your book up. Hold it up higher, 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 a little higher. And okay, hold on. Ready? Let me see if I can do this. Ready? How stupid am I? There we go. It's so stupid. I just wanted to see if we can make it look like it's one book. Okay. You read. You want me to go first or you to go first?
No, you go first, okay?
Okay. Then you pick a page number and a line number, and I'll read it. Or you want me to tell you? Yeah. Okay. You
ready?
Pick. Yeah. Go. So
I'll pick.
Okay. Go ahead.
242, line 7.
Okay. We're stealing this from Dan, by the way. Dan from
Yes, Dan. Thank
Walmart.
you.
Thank you for this wonderful idea, friend. If you haven't seen that interview, go see it. 242, line 7.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I led her away quickly, walking back through the house into the sitting room. That's mine. You ready?
Yeah.
179, line 1.
Okay. In my dream, I was in Paris, the Tuileries Gardens in full bloom on a sunny spring day.
Okay, your turn.
Okay. Page 10, line 4.
Okay, page 10. Line 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hi, Daddy, I croaked. Would you read for me? I'm going to ask you to read. Let me see. There's one. Let me see. Sorry. Where does Okay, ready?
Yeah.
So go to page 32.
Okay.
And go ahead and read for me. Go ahead and read for me, if you want to, if you can, the entirety of basically that big chunk paragraph.
Okay.
Okay.
The middle one?
Yeah. Starts with the strange woman.
Yeah. So why don't I read that and then you read the next paragraph?
Okay. Okay.
The strange woman went on. Well, be prepared. The islands are a special place. The aloha spirit. I don't know if it's the breeze that blows across the ocean and brushes over the land, or the fact that some say that the moon hangs lower in our sky. My ancestors believed it was the lava flowing underneath the surface of the ground, keeping everything off balance, making it easy to fall over and into love. There's a very special energy on the islands. The old ones say that love itself was born in Hawaii. If you are broken-hearted, the islands will mend it. If you are lonely, the islands will guide you to your companion. the whole world is drawn to them. That's why everyone takes their honeymoon in Hawaii.
Personally, I believe it has something to do with the waves, the tidal pull, and the constant motion of the ocean. If you stand on the shore and look out at the Pacific, you'll begin to feel as if you were on a boat. You become unsteady and unbalanced. My husband used to say it was the ions in the air, charged and bright and full of energy, that makes everyone so eager to fall in love. He didn't say it so politely, but you catch my meaning. So, my daughter, I graduated from little sister to daughter. If you stay long enough, perhaps you too will be changed by these islands.
I think that's just one of the most beautiful paragraphs in
But you know
life.
what? It really is just this book that I read it out loud recently for the audiobook, and I got to go through all of it and just take my time reading it out loud. And it really is, it's fun for me to say this because I'm really truly talking about the parts I didn't write, but it's really a wonderful book. Like it's one of those things where I'm really proud of it. I am proud that my name is on it, and I'm excited that people get to read it. We have an international Gomez Polaha book launch day happening March 9th.
And I'm going to say why it's important for you guys to buy the book. It's because the better we do, the more we can write the script and make it into either a series or a movie or whatever, but it has to do well. So
it really does.
It has
Let's
to
talk
do
about
well.
that real quick.
Yeah.
So we have we have the potential. We now have IP. We have a title and characters that are created that are now in the world, and there's nothing that anyone can do about it. And we could take this into Hallmark or Netflix or Apple Plus or any one of these places like Warner Brothers or Paramount. And we can pitch this series, and we can turn it into, and we are technically writing these books with an aim to turn them all into films. So I know that we can say like, we can say this: book 1, 2, and 5 are a trilogy, and then book 3 is going to be a standalone, but it's still within the saga, and book 4 would be technically a standalone, but still within the saga. So potentially we could do all 5 movies, but they all take place in Hawaii, and they all take place, and they're all love stories, and I found
they're all very cinematic.
And they're all very cinematic. You know, we placed on a wholesome reading list, and now it made me question the first chapter we wrote for the next one. I'm like, well, maybe we should change that a little bit.
We talked about it. We said we would.
Yeah, we'll tone it down. Okay, do you want to answer some questions? Do people have questions? Let me see. Can you scroll through the questions, or are they all just on mine?
I can. Like, how do you scroll? Do you just?
It should be like, if you touch your screen, it should, or maybe it might just be on mine. Let me see.
Someone said, what book is this being discussed? I just joined the chat. We're discussing moments like this.
Moments like this. Kelly Clarkson wrote a song called A Moment Like This, and my publicist is talking about trying to get me on her show, because of the similarities in titles.
That's great.
So that might be cool. Okay, guys, does anybody have any questions? Here, if you've already asked, I can't go back and scroll, so just go ahead and ask again. Perhaps release PG-13 version for the next book. Yeah, well, it is right now. It's a little. How did you handle the criticism of something so personal? So how did you handle the criticism for something so personal story? Or how do you handle the criticism? I don't know.
For me?
I don't know. Did we get any criticism? When is book 2 coming out? We can answer that one.
Yeah. Go ahead.
It's coming out next year, exactly a month. I think we're going to shoot for February of 2022. Is that correct?
Yeah. I know we originally said November.
Right.
But I think we need more time to get book 1, everyone to read book 1, and, for us to be able to, because the audiobook is still coming out.
Right.
So there's a few steps.
Right.
So, and to get it out in the world. So it's February. I think we decided it's going to be a Valentine's release.
A Valentine's release, yeah. Here's a great question from Caroline Agaden. She said, for fellow writers, how did you manage the collaboration from a distance?
Well, we have a few rules. We made a few rules in the beginning. First of all, whenever we had an idea or whenever we thought of something about the story, because it's constantly brewing in our heads, we made a deal that we will not hold back and text each other or call. And we've kept to that, just because the creative process is so fluid.
Mm-hmm.
And we also meet regularly. I mean, we take it seriously. We schedule calls and we meet every week. We have creative meetings. It's the same. It's the same as everyone else. I think even if there wasn't COVID, we would be Zooming, I think. I mean, I'm not going to fly to LA and sit next to you and write.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know?
It's just, yeah. I mean, it's also a fun story. We've never met in person. It's all been Zoom and phone calls and texts, which is kind of a cool. We were joking the other day. We were like, after this, COVID ends and we get our vaccinations, and finally we can meet. And I was like, should we meet? Like, we gotta get. Like, I don't want to jinx it. And you were like, what?
Well,
You don't want to meet?
first of all, when I meet you for the first time, I'm gonna like come up to your waist.
Are you tiny? Are you tiny? How tall are you?
5'1".
Oh my gosh! Are you really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Well, I wear heels a lot and stuff.
Oh my gosh, you're tiny.
I am tiny, and my feet are size 5. Like, I'm tiny.
Yeah, I'm 6'4".
I know.
I'm huge. It's gonna be like Andre the Giant.
I'll be like, hi.
Storming the castle. Here's another question. Who are your own favorite characters in the book?
You first.
I mean, I'm really fond of Andy because I just think she's a really smart. I love the fact that we wrote she's Filipina, and she's somebody who's really, really smart and intelligent, and she's with it. Like, she's the research that she does for the coffee plantation. Like, she's so capable. We created a character, you and I, but created this character who is so capable and intelligent and awesome that young women can look up to. I think that's really cool. And then Warren comes in and he's fun, and we were able to create like a fun character with Warren. But my heart, like, again, having read it out loud, like, I have a soft spot for Andy. Like, I just think she's a really cool character, a literary character. How about you?
I think I really like Andy as well, but I love Warren. I think he's just a great guy.
Yeah. I also like the doorman. What's his name? AJ?
Yeah. And Appy. She's funny.
Appy.
Yeah.
Appy's. So we go to Germany in this book. We go to France, a brother in Spain, people in Florida, people in Chicago, and Oahu. It's a global phenom, right?
Yeah. And it's going to be like that for all books.
So Sarah has asked, do you have any tips or tricks to write when you feel the blahs? Ways to stay inspired? Yeah. How do you decide to write when you just don't want to write?
Then we don't write. There are times when we haven't written and we'll tell each other that we will talk the following week. I think, it has to come, and it comes in spurts, and, there's just so much going on in life that sometimes you just
don't write. I remember when I'd finished filming Jurassic World, and my family was in the UK, and we went and spent a week in London. And basically, you and I were talking every week. That was fun, trying to arrange, the time zones and coordinate all of that stuff. And I remember the phone call where I just said, you know what, can I have a couple weeks? And you were like, take a couple weeks off. And we just took this little beat where we had done all the work. We had the book finished.
Yeah, we were done.
The editors had it. Like, there was this thing, and we started talking about book 2. And I think before we really got into that, it was like, well, see, and book 2 was interesting because I think it took a minute to find a rhythm. It did for me anyway. I don't know. I can't speak.
Yeah, it did for me too. Remember, we had that meeting a month or so ago, and we're like, And then after that, we started bringing it into another direction. We were like, now we're kicking. Now we're, it's really different. And I think you had a harder time because you were home in LA, and
Yeah.
and the boys had like school stuff, and there was just so much going on, and
Yeah, like currently I have not written our book. What am I on, 3 weeks now?
yeah,
Has it been
3 weeks.
3 weeks?
Yeah.
And I was starting to feel a lot of pressure because you were jamming out. You've written out 3 or 4 chapters, and I'm like, hold on, wait, I don't want you to get too ahead of me. Like I gotta put my stuff back in. So there's been, and I felt that, and you said, don't feel pressure, like don't. And then you were so sweet the other day. You were like, well, I'll pause it, like I'll hold on, and in April we both have some cool time coming up that we're both going to be able to give a lot of like full 100% attention to the book, which is exciting for me.
Yeah. It depends on our schedule, really. So.
Yeah. So this is a question from Mandat 413. Did either of you change your writing style to match the other?
Not me.
No. I mean, because I'm an actor, and so one of my jobs is to find characters. I did have the gift of seeing your voice in all those pre-chapters. So I was able to, and I'd read your book. So I did like a deep dive on but it's weird because it wasn't a stretch for me to jump into step. I think that, again, like you said, we have really similar writing styles, and there's something about it's a staccato delivery. Like we don't go into a lot of florally, it's very, and which I think ultimately becomes easier to read. Like we're able to just say, we're showing things really quickly. We're saying, and we're very specific about what the things that we're showing, we're moving through. And these books are fun. I mean, they're like little adventures, and it's a love story, and it's.
And I think what we learned together when we were writing it is like write, and then we go back, put the flowery, put the feelings,
right, which was something you did.
The whole thing.
Right, you put the bones in, and I was giving you like all my juice, and then all of a sudden you went back, and I remember when I got your chapters, and I was like, oh my gosh, you're so much better than I am now. I was like, I got to go back now. Because I didn't know that. I was like, oh man. But it was good to, it's fun to see this process. And then we got to design this cover, and we worked.
Oh my gosh.
What's her name, her sweet name?
Hang Lee. She did the cover, and remember we were calling each other. You were going out to dinner with your friends in the UK with your actor friends.
Yeah, with everybody on live.
I'm calling you like, does this look fine? And you're like tying your shoes and like, okay, I'm leaving.
Well, you know what's funny is I went around and did a poll with everybody on Jurassic World, and I showed both pictures, and I said, this cover or this cover? And I took a poll, and all the young people loved this one. And then there were some other people who were like, we had an option that was kind of similar to, I guess, the back cover, really.
The back,
and that's why we went ahead with the back. And if you guys buy all 5 books, this is going to make something really beautiful. Like this spine is going to, on your bookshelf.
If you stack them on top of each other, it's going to have a really cool design.
Cool design. So we're putting a lot of thought, energy into these things, and we really care about. And I love the fact that the feeling of this, like I'm proud of the fact that like if this is on your bedside stand or your coffee table, it's going to be beautiful. Like it's going to be something that you're going to like having around your house. Yeah. So go get yourselves a copy, y'all.
Yes, guys. March 9.
Anna, always a pleasure. This is sort of what we do, but then we just decided to invite the Brave Butterflies and the Polaha Chautauqua community. We love you guys, and we're so grateful. Honestly, I have some of the best fans in the world, and I am so grateful for you guys. And I get to come and meet the Brave Butterflies pretty soon, right?
Yeah, we're fixing that. And I wanted to give a shout out. Kim has really helped organize everything, and Rachel from the Butterflies. Everybody's just pitching in and doing really well. So you guys, come on, 2 more days.
2 more days. It's already amazing. It's already a win. It's just all a win. Okay, well then this is it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I think for some reason Instagram has like completely changed the live thing. Like I can't, let me see something here.
I think I'll just X out.
Yeah, I think you have to, but I'm just trying to figure out like why would they do that, where they don't give me the chance to just say goodbye to people anymore. Anyway, bye everybody.
Bye, guys. Bye, Chris. Thank you for having me.
Bye, Anna. Thanks for joining.
Bye.
Oh, bye. Guys, that's it. I'm going to say goodnight to you all, and I'm going to get on with my Sunday. You have an amazing week. Lord, I just want to lift up this community of people and these people who are watching this. And I just pray, Father, that you encourage them and bless them and help them to experience a joy that is completely supernatural and a peace that surpasses all understanding. And just health and health. In your name I pray. All right. Thanks, everybody. See you later. Bye-bye.